Uhuru na nguvu.
No. You looking at a free black man.
Talk Black 360.
You want to know what a free black man look like? Look at me.
Uhuru na nguvu. Welcome to another dose of Talk Black 360. I am your host, Tino Blaine King, the Kool-Aid and Kush, the pioneer of black pragmatism. Today we're going to be talking about ADOS reparations, Black Brits, and Harriet Tubman. I want to jump right into the show today. And today's topic, there's definitely conflict inside of the black community. I'm talking about the movements, Black Liberation Movement, Pan-African Movement, ADOS, all of the diaspora. And I believe that in this topic, as we're talking about ADOS reparations, Black Brits, and Harriet Tubman, I believe in this topic I'm also going to be able to provide a solution for some of the dysfunction that is occurring inside of our black community. And the thing that I'm going to suggest to you that's going to help us to solve that dysfunction is a paradigm shift. So before I actually suggest to you that we're going to do a paradigm shift, I want you to know what a paradigm shift is, or at least what a paradigm is for those of you who might not already know. So let's take a look at the definition of paradigm. Should be right up here. Number 3. It says a set of assumptions, concepts, values, and practices that constitutes a way of viewing reality for the community that shares them, especially in an intellectual discipline. So the problem is the system that gave us our concepts, our values and practices were, or they all came from outside of this system that we claim is currently treating us unjustly. So naturally, a lot of us have sought ways to solve the problems that this system produces for us. And inside of all of these different factions of the community trying to solve the same problem, what we have is dysfunction. So you've got all of the different dynamics of black liberation that should be working together in harmony. They're now working in dysfunction and for the most part not really producing a result. Now, does that mean somebody is doing it right and somebody is doing it wrong? I'm sure that's what everybody would love to say. They would love to say that I'm doing it right, they're doing it wrong, but that's not actually the case. The case is everybody is doing it right. Everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing. The dysfunction comes because we're not working in harmony. And this solution is going to help us to work in harmony. It says that science can't really get moving until most of those working within a field agree on a paradigm. Before this happens, everyone is doing their own thing in their own way. Normal science is solving problems, collecting and organizing data, and making hypotheses and conducting experiments of repair. And what is happening right now is we're doing all of those things, but the paradigm that is controlling those operations is not the right paradigm. Therefore, our function is not proper. And that's why we're seeing a lot of dysfunction. So if we change the paradigm, then we'll fix the dysfunction, and our movement can begin to work in harmony. So in order for me to illustrate this point, I want to use the movie Harriet, the ADOS process for reparations. I want to also draw some information from the country of Libya, and the conflict that took place because of the paradigms that collided inside of Liberia. I hope I said Liberia earlier and not Libya. Sometimes I get those two confused, but I'm definitely talking about West Africa, Liberia. All right, so let's just get started. Let's jump in. We'll start with ADOS. Take a look at this clip.
African American American culture has never had the space to hold a piece of itself as sacred. What I mean is, in the way that other communities and cultures can say, you cannot do that, or at the very least, you cannot do that without me bringing you into the fold because you're not from here, we don't seem to have that same cultural privilege.
Okay, so what's interesting is I had a concept in my head, and I was challenged to come up with the words that I can use to represent what I felt was the significance of ADOS and how they actually were significant in the Black liberation movement. So when I saw this clip, and I'm sorry, but I can't tell you the sister's name. I can probably look it up and I'll leave it in the comments later. But what she did was she illustrated that point, and I couldn't do anything but agree with the way that she verbalized it. But so that was what I see as the ADOS's movement function. What they're trying to accomplish is exactly what she said in the video. And she verbalized the ADOS statement pretty good. So I think that helps us to understand the value of ADOS. All right, we're going to keep going, but I'll come back to this in a second. So next video that I want you to take a look at is a clip that I put together of Samuel L. Jackson and Idris Elba. Take a look at this one.
My mind is, I know the young brother is in the movie, and he's British. So there are a lot of black British actors that work in this country. All the time. So I tend to wonder, what would that movie have been with an American brother who really understands that in a way? Because, I mean, Daniel grew up in a country where, you know, they've been interracial dating for 100 years, you know.
I was really disappointed with those comments, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, we are dissected as a people. Why dissect us even further by a comment as stupid as that? Black actors, if you like, all over the world look at Samuel Jackson as an example of a great actor who happens to be black. So the idea that he can dissect us into, well, English actors that are black are stealing roles from American actors is really ignorant, and is the stuff made of things that divide us, not stuff that pulls us together.
Okay, so as you saw in that clip, obviously there's some separation there. Now that we're looking at that clip, we're not specifically talking about ADOS. We're talking about you know, the larger diaspora, and you have Samuel L. Jackson representing one position, and then you have Idris Elba representing another position, and the paradigm that they both share is in conflict, right? So where we're going to have to make adjustment is when we begin to get people to see that the paradigm is what's causing the difference, and the paradigm is what's causing them to have the perception that they are actually different. All right, next.
Recent report comes out in Los Angeles, A Color of Wealth. They actually break out Africans from native blacks. And one of the first reports to be done like this was done by the Federal Reserve along with several economists, one being Sandy Darity. And what you saw is that the middle Nigerian family in Los Angeles is worth about $140,000 hard. Almost $70,000 of it is liquid. The middle native black family in Los Angeles is worth $200 liquid. What we're not dealing with is not only the fact that they have this wealth, which puts them on par with white America in many ways, but also where does it come from? Now you come back to what Samuel Jackson was saying. His most important narrative or point was that they had interracial dating for 100 years. Understand, during those years, we had Jim Crow and redlining. It's not just about being black and melanin. It's about lineage. It's about the narrative of what we went through and the fact that we've been locked out of being American for so long.
Okay, so in that clip you had Tone Talk or Antonio Moore speaking about this concept of feeling like he didn't want to share the opportunity with any of the black Brit brothers because he felt like there was definitely separation between the two. But what's interesting as we start to unfold this is that there's a paradigm there. And remember, when we go into the definition of paradigm, you see something inside of that definition that says values. So let's recap that. The paradigm is a set of assumptions. So he was making assumptions. So is Samuel L. Jackson. So was Idris Elba. A set of concepts and values, practices that constitute a way of viewing reality for the community that shares them, especially in an intellectual discipline. So whether we like it or not, if you don't believe in the diaspora, if you don't believe that we're black, there's a reason why we're doing what we're doing as black people. And as black people, we're trying to solve our problems. That's just science. That's what you're going to do. But we're having a lot of dysfunction in solving our problems because the paradigm is not right. So if we look into that video, you see that riff that I was talking about. You see how that riff is kind of playing out. I'm going to keep going, and then I'll bring it all together again, because remember, the solution is simple. We just need to change the paradigm. So take a look at this clip real quick.
In addition, Africa is not a country. Tell me about your country and your tribe. What you see is that idea that we're going to create 52 countries into one country and give them the qualities of an identitarian oneness that they don't operate with but they're themselves. In actuality, these are very disassociated places. So now you become one place, or is it 52 places with many tribes?
Now, that was interesting because as you saw, Tone took a position to try to inform an African of the reality of Africa. And I think that is a very, very, that is, other than being arrogant, I think it is a result of a messed up paradigm. The majority of African Americans have an African American paradigm, which is a subsequent paradigm of America itself. So inside of the values and all of the things that we talk about inside of a paradigm, you're seeing what is represented is a value system and concepts and assumptions that are all tied to this paradigm that is an American paradigm. It was created to organize a completely different group of people for a completely different purpose. So let's keep going because I'm building this resolution for you and it's going to come real fast. So just let's go ahead and watch the next clip. Take a look.
Is pointing out a reality that we don't know enough about Cynthia Erivo, her past. The recent article came out in the New Yorker about slave trading in Nigeria. Wouldn't it be something if we do find out that she is Dahlia, which are slave traders in Nigeria, and she is not Ohu? But in addition, in Nigeria, wouldn't it be something if we do find out that she is Dahlia, which are slave traders in Nigeria, and she is not Ohu? But in addition, we have a long history going back to Hattie McDaniel of black actresses, African-American actresses, pushing for an opportunity to be casted in roles that go beyond just being Mammy in Gone with the Wind. But now when the role is actually here, you see this whole kind of shifting where we're going to look for more classically trained people. We're not going to look for people that actually can play the role of ADOS better.
Did you catch that? There was a part of that video that I captured and replayed so that you can see how the paradigm that that the brother was exercising causes naturally a conflict, right? Understanding that that is not the paradigm of an African, that is the paradigm of an African American. And the problem is that African American paradigm is actually subsequent to the paradigm or the understanding values of the oppressive system that you're trying to overcome. And where that point is driven home totally is when this brother, educated brother, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've listened to some of his works. He's a thoughtful brother, but I disagree with a lot of his thought processes, and that's because the paradigm is different. So here's where that becomes very interesting. You have a value system that causes you to attach yourself, right? So remember, inside your paradigm is your value system and your assumptions. So inside of this value system, you're willing to attach yourself to America. You want more of America, right? That is arguably the largest beneficiary of the transatlantic slave trade to date, and is probably still benefiting from it. But you turn around and then condemn a black queen for her ancestry. Inside of the paradigm of America is individualism. It is a love for money. It is things that are antithetical to the situation that black people are in and the process that black people need to take to get out of that situation. So this conflict arises much like the way that colonialism sparked a lot of civil war and what we call in Africa genocide. It happens this exact same way, because when the colonist comes in, they do the proper work to change the paradigm of a select few or a select group of the natives. And when they change that paradigm for that select group of native, naturally, these people who assume that they are supposed to be joined together don't see any possibility for that, because they're now operating in a dysfunctional manner. And inside of that dysfunctional manner becomes, or outside of that dysfunctional manner becomes chaos and civil war and genocide. So, you know, as simplistic as I'm making this sound, understand that this paradigm shift leads to civil war. And right now, what you're seeing inside of the Black liberation movement, inside of the diaspora, inside of the Black community, is just that. This is civil war. It is dysfunction of a people. So let's keep going, and then we'll conclude. Because what's most important is that there's no spirit inside of that paradigm that says we are the same. The spirit inside of that paradigm that we're using produces competition, and it shows that we are competitors. And I think that is very, very critical in our current existence. But I want to play these last two clips really quick, and really I'm going to give the conclusion, but I really wanted to play these clips because inside of that argument, there was the statement that that Cynthia, I don't want to mispronounce her last name, I think it is Arivo, that she made some statements towards ADOS, and she represented herself when asked about that in a very genuine manner. And I want to say that, you know, until further notice, that I think we can take her at her word and continue to observe her, but we can move forward. because I thought or I felt like this was genuine. And then the last clip is just her performing, and I just wanted to get that out there because I want you to understand that with the proper paradigm, we will see the commonality in our people, whether we are here in the United States, whether we're on the other side of the country, and not the differences. We'll see the commonality. Now, does that mean we're all the same? No, it doesn't mean we're a monolith, but it means that with the proper paradigm, we'll be able to use our differences as a strength and not something that is going to be a weakness because it's going to create divisiveness. So look real quick, and we'll run through these last two clips.
And as a woman, as a black woman, I feel innately connected to anyone else who looks like me, any other woman that looks like me. So I've had the discussions with women who have been hurt and have had pain, and I can connect that way because until now, I didn't know that there was a difference between me and them. I didn't, because I don't think that's helpful. What I do think needs to happen is a real conversation about what pain and trauma is still present and on the surface, because I don't think anyone is having that open air discussion about it. Right. And I think what's happening is it's happening in small factions, and we're trying to figure out how to solve the problem, but without having an open conversation about it.
Okay, so your paradigm, African American, is telling you that we're not the same. And what I'm saying is the proper paradigm will just reveal to you that we are very, very much the same, and that there is a cultural continuity inside of black people that that's undeniable. But this last clip is just a little extra, so take a look because I enjoyed it myself.
I'm the best thing that you ever had. Kiss me once again. Don't you never say that we're through, 'cause I ain't never loved a man the way that I love you. I can't sleep at night. Hey! No, I can't eat a bite. I guess I'll never be free since you got your hooks in me. Yeah. I guess I'll never be free. Don't you ever hurt me, baby.
Yes, indeed. How can you deny that there is a kinship in all of that soul that sister has? It's a beautiful thing. And I just want to tell you, if you're drawing a wedge between black people here in the Americas and black people on the European continent, you're definitely making a mistake. Your paradigm is wrong. We need to just make a simple paradigm shift. It's going to take some time, but we can do it. And then it'll begin to bring us back together so that we can create the power. And the power doesn't mean that we're all going to function and operate the same, because we're going to move into natural science, which means we all do different things at different times. And sometimes we're doing different things at the same time. But this paradigm is going to allow you to open up and see the promise of the future through the eyes of a single community. And that community is the African. It is the diaspora. It is ADOS. It's part of that community. But we do understand that ADOS is trying to carve out its sacred space for us here in America. And that makes a whole lot of sense. So I'm not mad at the brothers. I just want us to make sure, and sister, don't want to be disrespecting the Queen Yvette. But I definitely want to say that we've got to make this paradigm shift so that we can paradigm shift so that we can move forward. All right, I think I've covered it. That's the solution. Let me know if you like it, if you hate it. If you think I'm out of my African mind, which you're probably wrong, because I'm definitely very, very heavily into my African mind. But anyway, leave the comments, share the post, share the page, catch it on YouTube, Talk Black 360. And I'm just going to keep bringing this information till somebody tells me I've got to stop. Until then, you guys out there, you know what you have to do. Stay strong and stay black. Ashe?
This has been another dose of Talk Black 360.
No, no, no. You will never be enslaved again by no man.